Yes, hello, welcome. It is the Champagne Rugby Podcast coming to you live, sort of live from the Export Beer Garden studio. My name is Tony Lyall and I'm joined as always with my boy. Who are you, man?
Hello, my name is Sam Smith. Thank you so much for calling me your boy.
Yeah, I thought it sounded cool. And I say coming to you live from the Export Beer Garden studio, but I'm actually on location in a remote Export Beer Garden studio in the city of Melbourne, Australia.
Wow, fancy man coming in with his international travel in the world of COVID. Nice work, Tony Lyall.
Yeah, I am pretty fancy. I actually am over here for some stand-up comedy. It's a thing you may have heard of. And also, we'll get into it later to go watch some rugby in a couple of weeks. But when I was coming over, I was on the airplane and I thought to myself, man, I hope there was no admin I had to do around COVID-19 to be allowed into Australia. It turns out there wasn't. But yeah, really bad place to think about it on the airplane, already on the way.
Tony, I saw that you got upgraded.
Yeah, I'm a pretty important guy, Sam Smith. So I
cannot believe that.
I got to the airport
and I've always wanted to be upgraded. It sounds amazing.
It was pretty great. I went to a business class. I didn't have to sit with any of these plebs back in the back. I walked on and my original ticket, the printed out one, was, 41K or whatever down the very back. And then I looked at my app and it said 12A. And I thought, ooh,
wow,
here we go. Hey. And I actually was thinking about it, to relate this back to the podcast vaguely. I was thinking about it when the rugby players travel on the airplanes, they always seem to go business. I imagine they probably always do. And they just don't know what it's like to be sitting in the cattle class like the rest of us, these huge rigs.
They physically would not fit into those little wee tiny seats in old economy.
Yeah, can you imagine Tamaiti Williams crunching himself in half to sit inside a tiny little economy seat? It would be ungainly and hilarious.
They'd have to buy 2 seats, lift the armrest up, have one buttock on each chair, and then sort of do a sort of like human centipede of getting the 2 seatbelts together to keep them all safe while they're out flying. They're hurtling their way through the skies. How exciting.
I don't think that's a human centipede. I think a human centipede is... It's when you place your mouth on someone's anus and sort of make a chain of people.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes.
All living on each other's excrement. That's a human centipede. What you're thinking of is just a regular seatbelt.
I'm just thinking of 2 seatbelts put together, aren't I? Man, I always mix those 2 up.
I know. It was awkward at the orgy you went to when you got your seatbelt out. Everyone was like, no, this is the centipede.
And I said, safety first. We're doing safety, guys. Come on.
To be fair, safety first is a good motto to have at the orgy.
Very true.
I would encourage that for everyone going to any orgy. And we do take a break from our regular rugby commentary to get into a new segment called Orgy Health and Safety.
That's right.
And just remember, be safe, look after each other. Know when you've had enough. It's like a buffet. You don't want to eat too much and get a sore tummy afterwards.
You want to take your time and enjoy it. You don't want to smash yourself too early or get smashed too early by someone else.
Yeah, always the worst part of any orgy. But speaking of orgy, should we talk about some rugby union football? Super Rugby round 7 was on the weekend. And
what a huge round.
Well, it was Easter weekend and there's only 4 games, which was a bit disappointing. It felt like the four they could have fit about a dozen in there, but they decided to scale it back and only do 4 of them. The first of which was Friday night, Crusaders versus Moana Pacifica, all the way from Orange Theory Stadium, the worst rugby union stadium in the world.
How dare you? It is a great stadium made in Canterbury by Cantabrians. Tony, I will... Don't make me fly over their economy and beat you up, because I'll do it.
I'm just not convinced, Sam, that it is made by Cantabrians. I think there was... as the whole rebuild after the earthquake, they trucked in people from Ireland, from Europe to build this stuff. And then they said, now get out.
They trucked in people from Ireland to rebuild to make a stadium. I don't think that's true. I think literally the stadium was made by the people of Canterbury. I think that's part of the big pride in it.
Okay.
You watch your little mouth, my friend.
So I apologise to the people of Canterbury.
Good.
But a great win from the Crusaders. They won 38-21. And for a long time of that game, obviously, Sam, you're a big Crusaders fan. You must have been shitting yourself.
Absolutely not. I have faith. I was quite pleased to see Moana Pacifica playing pretty damn good rugby in that first half. They were like stringing things together. A couple of brilliant absolute blockbuster tries. I was really impressed with them. It was the best game in the season. They led at halftime. Yeah, which was 21-17 at halftime, I do believe. But then, man, second half, and this is a theme for this weekend of rugby. Second half, the teams that won really stood up and ran away with it.
Yeah, they really did. And Levi Armua in the centre, centers, I think it was second five, was absolutely unstoppable. Literally scoring tries at will, just running the same play and just scoring try after try. He is the widest man I've ever seen. I say widest, W-I-D-E-S-T. He's so wide. Like on TV, it looks like my TV. You know when you have like a bad copy of something and everyone's stretched out, like it doesn't fit the right aspect ratio.
Like when you go to the movies and the person at the movie theater is a young kid and he gets the aspect ratio wrong.
Exactly
that's
like that.
What's happened to Armua.
He's just so wide and a hell of a player as well. And my question to you, Sam, I don't know if this is he eligible for the All Blacks by playing for Moana Pacifica?
That is a very good question. Has
to be close, right?
He's great.
Absolutely great. I mean, I don't even know if he has any desire to play for the All Blacks. Maybe he'd prefer to play for Samoa. I have no idea. But God, he must, like, we're pretty light in the centres at the moment. Like, we could do with an absolute barnstorming second five, sort of in the same sort of vein as a Nani Laumapi. Get Levi Armua in there in the black jerseys just to absolutely run amok. Obviously, we've got Geordie. He's looking pretty good, Geordie Barrett. Yeah. But getting Levi Armua in there to truck it up the guts.
Yeah, hitting a big old centre like that, smashing people down while you get basically another first five in at 12, as most of the teams tend to be doing at the moment. That's a great idea. Hoo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree with me. I also thought I was pretty smart on that. And we also had Tamatava Nawai absolutely running amok as well. Man. Fins up, go the Marco. Both of those boys are affiliated with the Marco, I believe.
Exactly
Levi
right.
And just a hell of a fun player to watch. He must be one of the more impossible to stop players in the two of them. Running at 13, running on the wing, side by side. And Tamatava Nawai was taking all those short balls, first receiver balls, and just devastating poor unsuspecting chumps who try to tackle him.
I was really excited about this game because this was going to be the Whainganuku brothers against each other. Lester for Crusaders and Timo for Moana Pacifica, but neither of them played. So yeah, great, awesome.
Yeah, we almost got a version of that, right, with was a Havili playing, but I don't think his brother played.
Yes,
so it was sort of one Willie Havili, William. I'm sorry for calling him Willie. I don't know if people call him Willie. Havili, but David obviously not playing at all. But he looked pretty good as well. It kind of is weird when you watch a player who looks so much like their more famous sibling. You feel like you're watching that person the whole time. You're like, oh, Dave Havili's out there. Oh no, that's a brother.
Yeah, that's right. And he's put on the wrong shirt. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was a bit awkward when he ran out there. It's like that little kid style rugby where you're a player down, and so one of your players has to go play for the other team, and so you give them your worst player, and then all of a sudden they have a barnstorming game.
Amazing. I once got my brother to play for my indoor football team. We put him in goal, and this was like we were Form 1, and he was third form, but he was already 6'2". And so he just blocked this indoor football goal, and we ran around like children and had the best game we've ever played in my entire life. Shout out to my brother Thomas Smith.
Yeah, there's something to be said for being massive, especially at a young age, just being an absolute rig when everyone else is literal children.
That's right. We should also the highlight of this game for me. It's Richie Mo'unga's 100th game. What an effort. What a stretch. What a great first five. Hell yeah, he should be the first pick for the Blimmin' ABs. He is on fire. Love him.
Yeah, you'd have to say he's a pretty easy pick for that All Blacks 10 jersey at the moment. He's also just a bloody good-looking bloke, isn't he? He looks good on the camera.
Yeah.
Ladies love him. Every time he comes on, I reckon my wife has asked me who he is about 100 times. When we watch it, like the rugby will be on and he'll come on and she'll be like, oh, who's that? And I'm like, you've asked before. You know who it is, but she doesn't. She forgets it. She thinks it's another guy, but he just tickles her taste buds. So she wants to know who he is. Yes. And that is a sign of a player with star power, cut through, appeal in terms of marketing. And also what a player as well, like driving that team around. I mean, he has got hands down the best team in Super Rugby to drive around the park, but he does it with aplomb.
He does it. Aplomb. Oh, you don't hear that too often. I'm excited about hearing aplomb come out of your mouth.
Yeah, I felt like I delivered that word. I felt like I delivered that word also with aplomb.
Yeah, you did. Aplomb. A-P-L-O-M-B? Is that how you spell aplomb?
Yeah, it sounds good.
This isn't what the podcast is about. I'll look it up later. It was wonderful.
You could look it up now. That's fine. I think we've got time. We've got time on our hands. One thing I also want to talk about, obviously, congratulations for Richie. Isn't it crazy that rugby team has had two guys called Richie in defining roles?
Yeah.
I don't know any other Richies in my entire life, but on this team, there's two. It seems unlikely.
Yeah. Richie Hardcore. Is he a guy? He's a guy I've heard of.
Cancelled, unfortunately.
Oh,
so,
which case, please edit this bit out. Richie Rich.
Stays in. Richie Rich, I don't personally know him, but I do like the idea of putting McDonald's in your mansion.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It's a great idea. But yeah, he's a heck of a player, and it just shows how complete a player he is with his kicking game, kicking the goals, charging that team around the field. I think he's like the 23rd Crusader to play 100 games as well, which seems crazy. That's a lot. And I may have made that number up, but it's something high like that. It's higher than any other team. I think it sounds like a great number, and it makes sense when you think about it. Crusaders have a lot of players who are very loyal, and why wouldn't you be when you can play in the best team that's potentially ever existed at Super Rugby level? Yeah. And I mean that statistically, not in terms of mana.
Yeah. And can I also just put a thank you out to the Blues for letting Milani Nanai come join us at the Crusaders? Oh boy, he came on later in the game, and man, he pulled off a wonderful little flick pass out the back to Dallas McLeod on the wing, zooms on up into Willie Hines. Thank you again to England for giving us your halfback. And we scored a belter of a try, I think, at the 78th minute or something like that. Oh, it was beautiful. And I think we're going to see a lot more of Nanai on the wing for the Crusaders, considering everyone in our team is injured. Yeah, it's crazy to think that a guy like that can be let go from the Blues. I know that they're fairly stacked in terms of the wings department, and he had obviously gone and come back. But what a player. I think he's played probably 50 games for the Blues as well. Yeah. So I guess it stacks up. He is fast, man. He is good. I like him. He's fat? Fast. But I said it in a cool accent. It sounded like you said he is fat. And I think the viewing public will also agree that you said he is fat. I said fast. And also unbelievable that Willie Hines has played for England. You think of him as an absolute battler of provincial New Zealand rugby. Yeah. But no, off he popped and he played 13 tests for England. Yeah. He played against the All Blacks in the 2019 World Cup that we lost. Which must have been the greatest moment, because he was overlooked his entire career by the All Blacks. There's some players like that, particularly halfbacks, and for some reason, Sam, particularly Crusaders halfbacks, have been overlooked. That's a good call. I remember thinking about it with Bryn Hall, and Mitch Drummond for that matter. I think Mitch Drummond's played a few tests, but Bryn Hall, he was overlooked completely. I'll tell you exactly why this has happened. It's because Aaron Smith is an absolute dream halfback. And that's been his role for, 9,000 years now? Is that how long he's been the number one guy? It hasn't been far away, but there are other things called reserves, Sam Smith, that I think you're forgetting about. And never heard of him. Called into that. Yeah, I want my starting players. That would be a good World Cup, right, if there was no reserves. I mean, he had 15 players. That's it. If they got hurt, suck it up. If they got yellow carded or red carded, off you go. No one can change. But everyone just had to be more adaptable. You had a rangy lock having to play first five because Beaudy Barrett got knocked out cold. Yeah, that'd be great. Apparently, I heard that in the whispers in the sheds at Crusaders HQ that if Richie Mo'unga said that if anyone he was going to pick any forward to take a clincher penalty last minute, all the backs, all the usual kickers, they're all injured. Any forward that's going to do it, apparently Sam Whitelock is your guy. Apparently he has got kicking boots for days. Yeah, I totally believe it. He looks like 100-year-old man for his whole career. He
he has some no-nonsense opinions, and I appreciate that from Sam White. Like, I reckon he could punt the absolute shit out of it. I also think he'd lie it down and kick it torpedo style, like Mal Meninga in the good old Canberra days.
Nice.
Or maybe he'd take his shoe off and use his shoe as a tee for the ball.
That is old school, and I love it. They should do that. They should make that. Oh, they had kids weekend a couple of weekends. Let's have a weekend where people have to actually use their own boots as the kicking tee. I think that's great.
Yeah, and speaking of own boots, I think we've really got to put a stop to this kids having signs saying, "Give us your things" at rugby and sport grounds in general.
It is needy.
All weekend long of people being like, "Give us your boots" on a big sign. No please on the sign. On the sign, Sam Smith. Just give us your boots.
I am not for bad manners. This is appalling that our children are being raised to believe that they can just ask, not even ask, demand that professional rugby players give them their articles of clothing at the end of a game. It is disgusting. The fact, I think those kids should go out, get a job, and maybe afford your own pair of shoes. That's
get a job, you losers. Get a job and buy your own boots, you children. You disgust me. One more thing I want to discuss about this game before we move on, and this is, you would have heard it in the ACC commentary if you were listening to Sky Sport on Sky 9 there, and this was the conspiracy ball. An absolute outrageous bounce off a kick.
Oh, my
bounce
gosh.
back to make a try. And I agree with Matt Heath. I don't know if we've got this audio to play.
Drummond, slow ball. The Gardner, the crossfield kick from Mwanga. Oh, the bounce is good. The bounce is good. And the Crusaders will score. Dominic Gardner. They score. It is a ding-dong, and the Crusaders have the lead back, 22-21. A suspicious bounce there. A very suspicious bounce. You see how that just set up for him? Yeah. I mean, come on. It's the bounce of the ball, the rub of the green sometimes, Matt Heath. Look at this bounce. Very suspicious bounce. Look at this.
Mwanga, the vision from Mwanga, the crossfield kick.
Could you have had a better bounce for the Crusaders there?
No, you couldn't actually.
That is suspicious. The Cantab Mafia strike again. It's corruption of the worst kind. We've got to stamp this out for the good of Super Rugby. It's a terrible, cowardly try.
Jeez, Dominic Gardner, I thought he didn't think he was going to make it. He tripped over before the line. The problem, potentially the most ungainly try you'll ever see, was the ankle tap from Inade.
Yep, people are calling it on 3236. The text machine is lighting up conspiracy ball, hashtag conspiracy bounce. It's coming in hot and heavy.
Bounce.
But there you have it. Conclusive evidence that the Canterbury Mafia has rigged the game of Super Rugby. They've weighted the ball. The ball is unvaccinated. The ball is able to travel in ways that is unhealthy, unlegitimate, and completely unrespectful. And that teed up the try that gave Crusaders the edge that ended up having them win the game.
Yeah, we're doing it. Everything you said is true. That's exactly what we're doing. At the Upper South Island, we have figured out a way to control the ball. What we do to it is we use manners. We say to the ball, please, can you bounce favorably for us? Because we use manners. We're not like those greedy children out in the stands. That ball is doing what we ask it to do, bouncing back into our hands, Dom Gardner, slamming it down like a big rangy lock. And it was beautiful, and he's having an absolute killer season. All Blacks.
Oh, you're right. You sort of sound like that sentence had more to say, but you ran out of puff. He is playing well. I'll say that, Dom Gardner. It was a great try as well, sort of crawling on his knees like a dog after the dog act of conspiracy ball. But I think there'll be more to be said about that. That will probably come out in the wash in the postseason, that the Crusaders have found a way to put a small machine in the ball that changes the balance of it so it bounces where they like it. It's the sort of thing they do. But we thought we'd give that some more airtime because conspiracy ball, it was trending on all social media platforms over the weekend, and I think it's time that's been blown wide open.
Sounds good to me. I reckon we can be truthful about that. It's happening. The Crusaders are doing that.
He's into it. Otherwhere, yeah, why not? Otherwhere on Friday night, the Reds played the Brumbies, and got pumped 24-52.
Oh, my God. So the Reds unbeaten at home in 13 games against Australian opposition. So this was big for them. And then, the Brumbies come to town again. Second half, major comeback by the Brumbies. The Brumbies went into halftime with the lead They scored on halftime to take the lead. And then try. Get pumped.
And it was about that many tries. Big scores over the whole weekend. If you look at the Crusaders game, there's nigh on 60 points scored, combination by the both teams and the Reds and Brumbies. About 76 points scored. It's so many points. Which leads us to more points. Unfortunately, not enough for the mighty Otago Highlanders. The feature game of the weekend, you have to say, on Saturday night, down in Dunedin, they'd managed to wheel the Boomers off the pitch after the Rod Stewart concert they had down there and get the rugby posts back upright. And the Highlanders hosted the Hurricanes and unfortunately went down 14 points to 29.
You're shaking your head, Tony Lyall. You're disappointed.
I'm forlorn. I thought that we might have done it. It's the sort of game that we might get up for. And I say we as the Highlanders. I thought that we had it in us to surprise a few people, and it was looking pretty good. At the end of the first half, the Highlanders were poised pretty well, but then a couple of niggly tries, and that was sort of all it took, and the Highlanders had no way back into the game.
The one of the things that I thought was really interesting at the end of the games, the Hurricanes didn't look like they weren't stoked that they'd won that game at all. They just looked like, oh yeah. And I thought maybe a bit disrespectful for your boys there down in Dunedin.
Yeah, I thought they were disrespectful. Also, almost as disrespectful as the kid in the stand again who had a sign that said, Artie, give us your jersey.
Come on, kids! Get out there. Maybe work at a Starbucks. Maybe work down the mines. Do something to earn... Maybe not down the mines. We probably don't work down the mines anymore.
No, get them in the sweatshops. Get them knitting
the
jerseys.
sweatshops. Yeah, get them.
They should be
get them to
jerseys.
knit their own shoes.
Knit your own shoes. And with that horrific piece of appalling behaviour from Sam, we're just going to take a quick break while he cools his jets. He's been sent to the sin bin. Yellow card. We'll be back in a moment. And we're back. Sam has served his time on the tiny little seat that they put out on the side of the game when you get yellow carded to humiliate you.
I'll tell you what, it was cold. The seat was wet as I sat down. It's been out in the rain. But I thought about what I've done, and I'd just like to formally apologise and get back into the game, if that's okay.
Yeah, it was also wet because you'd soiled yourself. Let's not forget that fact.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Urinated everywhere.
Yeah. I just, it's one of my weaknesses, bladder.
Sometimes you got to piss where you stand. That's what I'm always saying.
That's right.
And
you are of course, always saying that.
Talking about the Highlanders and the Hurricanes. Again, Hugh Renton having a standout game. He does look... we've answered this question, by the way, of does he play well or does he just get noticed because he has a big shaved head? But then the rest of the team all shaved their head. So now it is clear that he is just playing exceptionally well.
Do you see that great thing where he came off came off that scrum and just headed for the line, and everyone's like, "Hey, where are you off to?" And he just bolted through like 6 players, smashed down the try. Oh, it was glorious.
It was glorious. It reminded me of real little kid rugby where the number 8 is the biggest player and he just takes it off the back every time you're 5 meters out and scores a try. He just absolutely bunted old Cam Roigard right out of there. It was a classic example of what happens when a tiny man sprints at a big man, and I love to see it. Yeah.
Cam Roigard, by the way, man, his run up the field was incredible.
What a player.
He is he's having a great season. This weekend was a great weekend for halfbacks. Cam Roigard getting in, scoring a try. Willie Hines got one as well. Finlay Christie, we'll get to that in a second. Just lots of halfbacks doing their business. Even the Brumbies guy, whatever his name is. Nick White, is that him? Or is that a referee from the 90s? I forget.
No, it's certainly a boring name, but that is Nick White from the Brumbies. He sort of has the legs of a man who's been riding a horse for 30 years. Very bow-legged stance, Nick White. But he is a great player, horrible moustache. But we are getting sidetracked.
From
Cam Roigard, who, like you said, played exceptionally well. I read an article in the New Zealand Herald that was sort of touting, it was actually the Rotorua Daily Post, but I'm sure they get all their journalism from the New Zealand Herald, a sort of a feeder organisation, if you will. And they were touting him as potentially a All Blacks bolter.
Really?
Yeah, whoop, whoop, bolter alert.
Wowee.
Cam Roygar, potentially for the World Cup, if we have a couple of injuries, he won't be far away, surely. I mean, it's pretty hard work with, you've got your Brad Webbers, your Finlay Christies, your Aaron Smiths, it's a tough ask.
That's tough. And we are getting, it's April, we're getting very close to finding out who this World Cup team's going to be. It's going to...
Yeah, and then, I mean, even if you think about it, Fakatava has played a bunch of tests and he's back, he's fit, he's looking good too.
Although, did you see that he was trying to do one of those back flips, which gave the ball to Cam Roygar to score that try.
Yeah, you love to see it, a 9-on-9 pilfering, really, a real rob the nest.
Yeah.
I think it looked like it went forward out of his hand as well when he did try to do the backwards pass, a coach killer, and a Highlanders fan killer.
I feel like do you remember we used to get forward passes all the time? You get 20 a game. And now we see it, we just don't see it. It just doesn't happen. The ball is now going backwards out of the hands, even though it's heading forward.
Yeah, well, that was the rule change that took the forward pass out of the game, really. I mean, there's still a couple of bad ones, but as long as the hands are going backwards, the ball can drift forwards. And it seems that teams, maybe they got better at it as well. It's one of those, it is a bit of a schoolboy era or schoolgirl era.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know. I'm very...
Girls can make mistakes too, Tony Lyall. It's not just boys.
Can be bad at rugby too. They certainly don't seem to be, not in this country anyway.
Not in New Zealand.
Excellent.
We don't do it here, but we have seen some girls overseas be not so great at rugby.
And can I just say, hopefully we can talk about a women's game soon enough when the Black Ferns get some scheduled time. I mean, there was sevens we could talk about, but it'll be a break from our normal programming to talk about sevens, which is probably the Champagne version of the sport. Both teams doing very well in Singapore on the weekend. Good to see them out there ripping and tearing and
just dominating. Absolutely dominating.
But we're here to talk about Super Rugby, and at the end of the Hurricanes game, we have sort of talked about this, but I want to really make it clear that Ardie Savea did give his jersey to that boy, and it's only encouraging in them. Players, if you're listening to this, stop giving your shit to kids.
Keep your jerseys for yourselves so you can then give them away to a charity in about 20 years' time, and they can sell them for $400. Yeah,
or you can
do that.
You can die, and then you have a giant bag of jerseys that goes to the tip, and they're discarded.
Guys, you're professional rugby players until your early 30s at most. Keep those jerseys. That's your retirement fund right there.
Yeah, what do you think you're going to be wearing when you're 50? You think you're going to be wearing regular T-shirts? Not on my watch.
You guys are monsters. You're huge. You need those jerseys to wear casually on the bus.
I mean, they must have so many jerseys.
They get one a game, right?
I think there's 2 available per game. There's a backup. I mean, I don't know if the backup lasts all season and there's just a backup kit. Because, if they rip their jersey, they'll often run a spare one out and it's numbered. Yeah. It's probably a backup. But a jersey a game, that means Richie Mo'unga has 100 jerseys.
He's got a whole separate house that he just stores all his jerseys in.
I've got a bit of sports gear. I've got a few jerseys, and my drawer is full to bursting, and I've only got 6. And the whole I can't close it properly. It sort of comes off its runners from time to time. I imagine the bottom drawer in Richie Mo'unga's bureau is absolutely punished.
I have 5 or 6 rugby jerseys, and I've literally never played the game. He could knit them into a big circus style tent to live inside. That's how many jerseys Richie Mo'unga's got.
I mean, he could. It would be potentially the wildest thing he could do.
He could do it,
Richie Mo'unga
He's a talented
lost
man.
His mind.
I'm sure he's got some knitting skills that he could put to use.
He's made a tent in Christchurch. Come down to the Shirley jersey tent where recently insane ex-All Black Richie Mo'unga has lost his mind and started knitting his jerseys together.
Can I just say, I 100% would go and see that. That sounds amazing.
it's a real South Island tourism attraction. Like, oh, here's the fence with all the boots hanging on it. And there's the jersey of the All Black guy that's now a tent.
There are lots of those fences, eh? There's a toothbrush one, there's a bra one, there's a hubcap one.
The bra one makes me wonder, are you wearing the bra to it? And are you losing the bra and then going commando? I don't know what the bra version of commando is. Or are you taking a secondary, you taking Bramando, yes. That's actually the sequel to the movie Commando, except he's now a surfer.
Yeah.
It's up, Bramando. It almost works as a joke. Almost works as a joke.
Just
and if you like
there,
jokes like that, you can actually come, and this is a blatant plug for my New Zealand Comedy Festival show. Come along in Auckland and Wellington. You can hear more jokes like Bramando in May. Tickets, comedyfestival.co.nz.
And if you're into the mood for comedy right now and you happen to be living in or around the city of Melbourne, Tony, are there any gigs there that could potentially be worthwhile checking out?
Oh, there's heaps. Yeah, there's Melbourne Comedy Festival's on right now, and there's hundreds of gigs.
If you could pick one gig to go to, Tony Lyall, which gig would you get people to go to?
Yeah, it'd be Tony Lyall's gig, 9 p.m. every night at the Mole House. We don't have time to shamelessly shill.
That's a good time. You've got a good time slot for that.
And try to line my pockets with the listeners' hard-earned dollars, because we're busy trying to line this podcast with chat about. I think the Highlands Hurricanes have picked over the bones of that, really, and in the end, it was a bit of a blowout. And I think a last few minutes try to the Hurricanes gave the score some respectability. But 14-29, it was in the end. Probably lucky that it was that close. But what could have been? And Hurricanes go to the top of the table.
They do. They're up there. They're ahead of the Chiefs at the moment, which seems a bit unbelievable because the Chiefs have been so domineering. But the Chiefs do have a game in hand.
Yeah, I feel like when everyone's like, oh, Hurricanes top of the table, I'm like, well, I mean, not really. They've played an extra game. Why don't you shut the hell up? And then people are like, hey, you can stop being so aggressive when you're talking to me.
Yeah. I'm just a man on the bus. Why are you accosting me like this, Tony Lyall?
Please stop berating me. Put your pants back on. And speaking of down trails, the Rebels, the Blues.
Oh, my gosh.
Saturday night in Melbourne. An absolute shit show for the Rebels, 17 points to 54, a hiding. Luckily, there was no one in attendance to watch the game.
You didn't go? Were you there yet? No, you weren't.
Wasn't there yet. I would have gone. Yeah. I will probably go to the Rebels versus the Crusaders on Friday the 21st. So not this coming round, but the weekend after.
I feel like first half though, the Reds were ahead. The Rebels were ahead. I mean, the Rebels were ahead at halftime.
Same sort of thing as the Highlanders game where
the Blues,
we might be about to watch a boil over, and then just the Blues put the foot to the floor. Beaudy Barrett decided to stop being in a form slump.
That's right.
And he
just decided. He decided he was actually going to play a bit. He got some cool kicks over the top. He set up some beautiful tries. He did great. Amazing try to Dalton Papali'i. This is in the final minutes of the game. Dalton Papali'i sprints down the sideline like a winger, and like a frickin' Usain Bolt. He gets there, no one anywhere near him, and scores an absolute banger of a try. Yeah,
it was a wild try. A kick through from Beaudy. He obviously was using that as a bit of a pre-organised play. The kick through. He did it a few times and just great results. Mark Talia again, almost unstoppable. Unfortunately, I guess it doesn't matter for the All Blacks, but Beaudy, he's got to just give up on the tee. You'd have to imagine it can't be, I don't know what he was, about 2 from 100, but his infield kicking was exceptional, and I just love him so much. He's a great guy.
He is a great guy.
God bless him. Steering that team around.
Tony Lyall, I met a great guy related to the Blues. I met Caleb Clark this last week. He was on The Project, a television show that both of us work on, and he came in as a guest, and oh my gosh, he is the nicest man I've ever met. He is shorter than I thought. Mm-hmm. He was wearing a bright orange T-shirt because he was doing work for World Vision. Good on him. Nice man. I talked to him about rugby. I said, I'm a Crusaders supporter, but I like it when you play well for the All Blacks. And he said, thank you very much. He was polite. He was kind. I want to be his friend. Tony Lyall, Caleb Clark, all-round gentleman.
And I think you probably are his friend. He's that sort of guy where he's just a lovely chap. Like, couldn't be nicer.
And
as a man.
And I was reminding him of it in the game. He said that during the games he doesn't remember what happens until right at the end. And I was like, no, you play. I talked to him just after he'd played the Chiefs, and I was like, you absolutely stormrolled a player from like 10 meters out. You totally barreled them. And he was like, yeah, I don't really remember that at all. I was like, it was just when you scored your try. He was like, oh, yeah, I guess so. He was humble. He smelt nice, which I did not expect from a rugby player.
That doesn't sound like humbleness. It sounds like CTE, unfortunately, for young Caleb Clark. But I'm sure a couple of weeks on the sideline, and that will sort him out. Hopefully not for the Blues outfit. They're looking strong as well.
Yeah.
And again, you mentioned him as well. Finlay Christie played another barnstormer.
Yeah.
He was running the cutter as well, an angry little ginger behind that impressive Blues pack who were storming around the field themselves. And I think he's going to give Brad Weber and Aaron Smith a real run for his money. And I was wondering when I was watching it, are we going to see another All Blacks World Cup campaign where the people who you could never imagine not playing don't play? And I'm talking about 2011, Mills Muliaina. In the end, Israel Dag usurped him.
That's right.
2015, Nehe Milner-Skudder came in and took that wing spot, made it his own. 2019, George Bridge, Sevu Reece, Ben Smith didn't even put boots on for the semi-final, and that was obviously a huge mistake. But will we see this again with number 9, or like to Finlay Christie and Brad Weber pushing out Aaron Smith, the GOAT?
Man, it'll be crazy, wouldn't it? When did Aaron Smith first play for the All Blacks?
I think he played in and around 2012 off the back of that World Cup.
Wow,
after the exodus of your Jimmy Cowans and your Andy Ellis's, when the blonde bombers from the South Island took off, he swung in there.
It was like, none of this, thanks.
Not too far after that.
I loved the time in the All Blacks where we had Aaron Smith, Ben Smith, and Conrad Smith. And as a Sam Smith, I was very happy to see my Smith boys out there. Love it. Yeah,
there was a lot of the same names when you have the Smiths and the Barretts and the Savias. It's a lot of the same names all in one team.
Man, that time I just remember back the glory days of the Crusaders where Adam, Luke, Sam, and George were all playing for all the Whitelocks were playing for the Crusaders. Wonderful time. Good to see brothers out there beating the crap out of other young men in this country. Beautiful stuff.
They must have really run amok, and it also gives the commentators an absolute plethora of things to say along the likes of, they must have practiced that in the backyard. Imagine how much they ate when they were kids and that sort of thing.
Yeah, they must love it.
And even the Crusaders going back, remember there was a time when basically everyone in the whole team in the backline, at the very least, last name started with M.
Oh, Marshall, Major, Mertens. Yeah.
Mayer Hoffler. And I'm sure there were more Major.
Yeah, the other Major. Yeah.
It was a
time when Aaron and Nathan were playing. Good times.
Oh, tight like Nathan and Aaron Major.
Yeah.
A great scribe lyric there for you. But we'll take a quick break and come back in a second to preview Week 8. Sam Smith, big weekend of rugby coming up this weekend.
A massive weekend with 4 games again.
Yeah, they really stretched it out by only playing 4 games a week for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But this weekend, Moana Pacifica playing the Reds in Apia, and what an occasion that will be. I've already seen some of the social media footage coming back from Samoa, and it looks like they're having a hell of a time going around visiting schools, getting the groundswell support behind them. I reckon that is going to be an absolute bell ringer.
If this is anything like how the Drua are getting support over in Fiji, then this is going to be brilliant. Moana Pacifica.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
They're on the swing up. They're doing great stuff. I love them.
Moana Pacifica, that's who I'm backing for that one. And then also on Friday night, we've got the Brumbies playing the Ndrua in Canberra. So not quite the party atmosphere that you might get in Apia in ACT, but I'm sure that will be a hell of a game to watch if you're a Brumbies fan, and you'd have to back the Brumbies there.
I love the idea that the Drua heading over to Canberra. They're going to go check out the parliamentary buildings there. Some nice buildings there, apparently. I think that's about it. I
imagine there's golf courses. Politicians love to play golf.
I heard in Canberra there's a street there that they potentially were going to call New Zealand Street when they were all about going to steal us in to be the however many states in Australia there are. New Zealand was going to be the extra one. They've got a whole street there ready to rename New Zealand Street when we say, yeah, we'll come on board, but we're not coming, Australia. We've got our own thing going on here. We don't want to be part of you.
Well, as the resident Champagne Rugby podcaster in Australia, I can say, I say let's do it. Let's join Australia. It's nice. I've paid $10 for a pint last night. I don't know when the last time I paid $10 for a pint in New Zealand was. I feel like they've gone up sort of $12. So I liked that. Which is, it's not fiscally responsible to judge your entire country's independence on the price of a pint. But what am I?
What else have you got?
Yeah, I'm not Winston Peters. And then we'll go to the game of the round by about 100 years. It's the only game all weekend featuring one of the OG 5 New Zealand teams. It is the Hurricanes versus the Chiefs. It is at big old yellow Wellington Stadium, and it's a top of the table clash, even if it is by default. Who are you picking there, Sammy boy?
Well, I'm going to see. It's a tough one. What's happened here is that they were going to play this at the prime time spot, 7 o'clock on the night. Because they've got some issues with the lights at the stadium, they've brought the game forward to 2 o'clock.
2:30.
2:30. So this is going to be a fun afternoon game. The kids will be down there. It'll be fantastic. The Canes against the Chiefs. It's a hard pick. Oh,
it is a hard pick, and they're playing at the dentist's favourite time, which I love as a reference. 2:30. Yeah. Sam, you're a dentist. It must be a favourite joke.
It is my favourite joke. My very last ever exam for dentistry in my 5th year of studying the beautiful topic of teeth was held at 2:30. I audibly laughed during the exam and got told off. So I was very much had my head in the game. Wrote a wonderful essay about looting cements.
Looting cements?
Yep, that's the thing that helped to stick crowns down and stuff. It's all very in-depth stuff that I'll save for my dentistry podcast.
Yeah, you never imagine that the dentist who's got his big hand in your mouth one time wrote an essay.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy that we had to write essays for dentistry. You'd think we'd have to drill into something maybe.
Yeah, I also think it's crazy. And
wiggle a tooth out? No.
Got to write dentist. Surely you don't need to know how the looting splooge works. All you have to know is that it works.
Exactly right. Exactly.
A mechanic doesn't know what the nuts are made out of.
Yeah, that's right. Metal, right? It's just they'll probably.
He doesn't know, and he doesn't have to know.
We did know what the stuff we were using was made out of. And I suppose that's why dentists are referred to as doctors by people who are accurate, and mechanics are not referred to as car doctors. Although I would 100% take my car to if someone called a car doctor. That sounds awesome.
Well, there you have it, Aotearoa. Sam Smith thinks dentists are better than mechanics. You heard it here first.
I will say it over and over again. I think dentists are better than mechanics.
Notorious
I'm not even hiding that.
Anti-mechanic Sam Smith.
Pro healthcare, anti-car Sam Smith. You heard it here.
In the pocket of big teeth.
I wish. That would be great.
Also, big teeth. Very hilarious because it sounds this is a big bunch of large teeth. We don't have time for that. We do have time to talk about the light situation. How hilarious is that? They're like, we just haven't really changed the bulbs, I guess.
It's quite hard. You've seen how high it is? We can't get up there. Let's just not do it.
Can we play in daytime? And everyone's like, yeah, I guess so. Who gives a shit?
Great. It's great. And all the sponsors are like, yeah, I think we're the reason why we play at night and not like we used to back in the day. Used to play in the afternoon when it was lovely. Yeah,
well, they play at night just for the TV audience. It's better to sit back after dinner and watch it at home. No one really gives a shit about the people at the ground. So it's nice to do it, and also lines up perfectly with the Warriors playing in North Queensland in Australia, which is a place I'm very familiar with right now. So that is a lovely little afternoon. And have you said who you're picking? Who are you picking, Sam?
I'm gonna say the Canes at home. Canes at home.
Yeah. Oh, wowee. I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going the Chiefs. I think they've got it sewed up, and they will humiliate the Hurricanes and really bring them down to earth. Remember, this is a Hurricane side who's basically only played the bottom half of the table.
This is a very good point you bring up. They are yet to play my Crusaders. Are they yet to play the Blues?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Islanders only New Zealand team they've played so far.
And which they just did as well. Okay, okay. I'm off the Canes bandwagon. Hate them. They're going to lose by 50.
Wow. Okay, he's gone big.
Huge turnaround. I listened to facts.
They're also going to win. I'm with you on that one, buddy. The Chiefs, for me, in the last game, Waratahs versus the Force. It's
Who
gives a
cares?
shit of the round. I think the Waratahs.
Can I just say, I think, you know, in New Zealand, we dropped the regional names. We're not the Canterbury Crusaders anymore. We're just the Crusaders. The Aussie teams, they're still growing strong with the Queensland Reds, your Western Force, the New South Wales Waratahs. No, thank you. That is too long a name. Just be called the Waratahs, please. I'm sick of wasting my day saying New South Wales Waratahs. I'm sick of saying Queensland Reds. I don't want to say ACT Brumbies. Just be called the Brumbies. I'm furious about this.
Well, you don't have to, of course. You can just say the Waratahs or the Force.
It's when they list
Brumbies.
them online. They put all the team names in a line. We've got the Crusaders. We've got the Chiefs. Real short ones. Fijian Drua. You could drop Fijian. Just be called the Drua. We're cool with it.
What about Moana Pacifica? You up in arms about that as well?
No, I'm okay with that because they're kind of new.
Yeah, and it would be a bit dicey if you weren't.
But the Waratahs have been in there since 96, mate.
They're actually second to last on the table as it currently sits.
Get rid of the name. You will bump up that table, Waratahs.
And speaking of the bottom of the table, Moana Pacifica are dead last, but they're playing at home. And now it's time for a lovely little new segment from our good mates at the TAB.
TAB Good Punt, Good Punt, Good Punt, Good Punt.
Into a lovely little feature that we've got now called the TAB Good Punt. And we've got $100 in bonus bets to spend on an outcome. And this week, Sam, I think we absolutely have to back Moana Pacifica at home, the bottom of the table, 12th place, playing the 8th place Reds. And this is a team playing at home in front of their adoring public in Apia.
It's a team that's on the up and up. They're getting better and better every week. This is the week where they're going to smash those Reds. I'm saying 13 plus, baby.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. 13 plus, and this is also a team with 0 wins, 0 draws, 7 losses, points differential of 158 negative, but they're going to turn it around and put on a clinic.
You can feel it coming. It's in the air.
Moana Pacifica. Very excited for that. So that's that TAB Good Punt on the Moana Pacifica to get off the bottom of the table. They actually won't get off the bottom of the table. Even if they win, they'll still be last. But nonetheless, go get it, boys.
Hey, we'll be feeling great if they do because they're paying out $5.75. That's pretty good.
$5.75, $100 bonus bet jumping on there. We'll really stack that ACC deck if we're able to pull that one off. And I think we'll be probably the glory boys of the whole organization.
People will be shouting our names in the streets. And remember, that money's going to some lucky listeners out there. So, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome in advance.
Already shout my name in the streets at me. They're like, get out of here, you piece of shit.
Put your dick away, mate.
No, they don't yell that.
This is a church.
All right, well, I'm glad we left it there. That is the end of the Champagne Rugby podcast for another week. Go Moana Pacifica in that big game. And as always, you can jump online, follow Sam Smith or myself, Tony Lyall. Buy some tickets to the Comedy Festival if you'd be so kind. And go the boys, whoever your team may be out there. Anything you'd like to add there, Sam?
No Crusaders game this weekend, so who gives a fuck about this weekend? Yeah.
Oh, there we have it. Also, apologies for no podcast last week. What we did was we did a bad job. So apologies to you loyal listeners out there who were hanging with bated breath waiting for the potty to drop. But don't worry, we won't miss another one. And if we do, we'll cut off our hands. So you'll always have podcasts. You'll always have podcasts. Thank you very much for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Peace.